Today we're answering one of cartoon's longest-standing questions. Just how much money does Scrooge McDuck have in his money bin? But first, there's something I've wanted to do since I was like age 7. Taking a page out of your book, buddy. Let's do this!
Film theory, woo. Charts and memes, shattered childhood dreams. Film theory, woo. YouTube fads paid for by ads, except for this episode, which is sponsored by Disney XD. It's Film theory, woo. Hello, Internet. Welcome to... You get it by now. And man, if you were a child of the 90s, hearing that theme song gives you the nostalgia tingles. DuckTales was then and still is great. I mean, it created the childhood fantasy of swimming through a literal pool of gold coins, which, now that I've done it, it's still awesome, but whoo-wee is it a workout. Old Fat Pat here didn't know what hit him. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with the show, DuckTales stars Donald Duck's uncle, Scrooge McDuck.
Scrooge McDuck? The bajillionaire?
The 0.0001% of 1%ers, with a skyscraper literally filled with gold that overlooks his city of Duckburg. You know you're rich when a tax for the wealthy is named after you. That's right, the Dutch word of the year in 2014 was Dagobert Duck Tax, actual legislation named after Dagobert Duck, the Dutch name for Scrooge McDuck. But it wasn't always that way. Scrooge is a testament to the value of hard work, starting as a poor shoeshine who got sick of being taken advantage of by heartless customers, insisting that the only valid way to acquire wealth is to earn it square, and avows that Scrooge McDuck's word is as good as gold. And that grit and determination paid off, making him officially one of, if not the richest cartoon character ever created, according to countless online lists, including Forbes, the business magazine. He started from the bottom and now is here. So he is, quite literally, Drake. Or more accurately, a Drake, since Drake is the name for a male duck. Alright, but let's get real. Although everyone knows Scrooge is enormously wealthy, the actual sum of money he has is really unclear. According to the 1956 comic, The Second Richest Duck, Scrooge is worth $1,623,623.62, a number that gets updated in the 12 comic series The Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck to $5,716,716,16. Then, if those numbers weren't ridiculous enough for you, in Season 2, Episode 6 of the original DuckTales TV series, the episode Liquid Assets, Fenton Crackshell, Scrooge's accountant, says that the McDuck money bin contains
$607,386,947,522,000,522 $35? Oops, 36.
Excuse me, Fenton. I just said he had 5 multiplijillion. Are you telling me that he lost $323 fentillion overnight? Come on! I think someone here forgot to carry a 1. But all joking aside, obviously none of these are actually answering our question. How fat are Scrooge's stacks in real terms? Multiple outlets have tried to calculate his worth. They just don't do that good of a job with it. For instance, Forbes magazine in that richest fictional character list estimated Scrooge's earnings in 2007 to be $28.8 billion, then bumped it up to $44.1 billion in 2011 due to the rise in gold prices. But they never actually say where they got those sorts of numbers. And the website The Billfold uses cool equations, but misses out on just how deep Scrooge's money bin is. So, with a reboot of the series coming to Disney XD on August 12th, one that, all Disney XD sponsorship of this episode aside, legitimately looks great. Seems to stay true to the spirit of the original series and has a very cool comic aesthetic, so as someone who grew up on these cartoons, I hope it does really well. Check it out if you're interested. And the question still at large after all of these years, it is time to put my theorist hat into the ring and answer the age-old question, just how much money does Scrooge McDuck have in that famous money bin of his? Now, obviously, with the Disney XD series coming out, I wanted to start there. Unfortunately, because it's not out yet, footage right now is limited to the trailer, the opening theme song, and a couple of spare teasers, so I'm not really able to get a good sense of the dimensions inside the bin. But that doesn't mean we're out of luck. Not only do we get a good general sense of the size and shape of the bin from the outside, looking very similar to the design from the original TV series, the trailer gives us our first major clue. And I do mean major.
I run a multi-trillion-dollar business.
This is, according to my research, the first time the series has put a real-world number to Scrooge's wealth, putting it in the trillions. But when it comes to money, that's a huge number, over 20 times the highest estimates Forbes gave him. So today we won't just be testing out how much money he has, but also how well this new reboot knows dear old Scroogey. Usually when I'm writing these theories, I need to scrape around for whatever information I can find. This theory actually has the opposite problem. For the first time in the history of these shows, there's too much information. The statistics you see about the money bin are constantly changing in both the comics and the original series. For instance, in the very first panel of the comic Only a Poor Man, we see a depth gauge in the money bin that reads the building is 79 feet deep with coins and bills. Not a shabby place to start. In another comic, The Pixelated Parrot, we get a ton of information. Or more accurately, 90 tons of it, since that's supposedly how much cashola Scrooge is keeping in the bin. And earlier in that same comic, we see him counting his money again, confirming he has 9 billion trillion and two $1,000 bills stored in his vault. We even get, in yet another comic, that he has 3 cubic acres of money. Obviously a joke, since an acre is a measure of area and not volume. If you did indeed have a cubic acre, you would have created a 4-dimensional space, a 3-dimensional space existing in a specific time frame. At that point, screw how much money he has, the size of his wealth would seriously be ripping through the laws of the universe. There are even blueprints of the money bin. In the 2001 comic, The Beagle Boys vs. the Money Bin, we learn that the vault is actually a 13-story building that's 127 feet tall with a large central chamber reserved for the coins. That would be great information, but the cube design is completely different from what I'm most interested in. The TV show's bin, both in the original series as well as the reboot, which we can see is taller and more narrow. So with so much conflicting information, what do? Well, the way I see it, we go to the most reliable source on the matter. Episode 15 of Season 1 of the original DuckTales TV show, The Money Vanishes. In it, we see the criminal family, the Beagle Boys, trick Scrooge into dousing his money with a teleportation spray. It's a plan that's so successful, they're able to clear the vault of all its money, leaving Scrooge penniless at the bottom. 20 minutes and 40 seconds into that episode, we get the clearest shot of the complete volume of the money vault that we ever get across the entirety of the series. And even better, Scrooge is in it. So if we're able to identify his canon height, we'll be able to get a sense of scale to this entire scene. No weird exterior shots, no guessing about the accuracy of offhanded remarks, just one scene that shows us the complete inside of the vault and gives us the means to measure it. A theorist's dream. So question 1, how tall is Scrooge? Thankfully, this has an official answer, but you gotta dig deep for it. In the 1963 comic For Old Dime's Sake, we see villainous Magica Dispel put Scrooge to sleep, and then measure him so she can assume his identity and sneak into the vault. According to that panel, he's just about 3 feet tall, or 0.91 meters. Now, to translate that information to the money bin, we see in the blueprints for the money bin that the ladder that leads to the bottom is officially canon. So if we know the height of the ladder, we can get an accurate read of the entire building. In that scene from The Money Vanishes, between counting the rungs you can see and estimating the ones that are either just slightly off screen or aren't clearly defined near the top of the animation, you get about 30 rungs total on the ladder. But how far apart are those rungs? To figure that out, we have to go back to the very first episode. In that episode, we see Scrooge using the ladder to pull himself out of the bin, with each rung gap about 1/3 of his height. With Scrooge being 3 feet tall, that means each rung is about 1 foot apart, and the ladder as a whole being just about 30 feet tall. That seems low to me. So let's double check using some of that other information we have. In the very opening seconds of the very first episode of DuckTales, we see the actual depth gauge to the vault, and it shows 70 deep. Seeing this, I was heartbroken, but then I realized, 70 what? 70 feet? It can't be, because we see Scrooge in the background. If we were to measure his size relative to that depth gauge, he'd be 20 feet tall. What is he, Wario? And remember, that's with Scrooge further back in the shot, so perspective-wise, he's even smaller relative to the depth gauge than he normally would be. And if 3-foot-tall Scrooge is 20 markings on the depth gauge, that means 70 markings is only about 10 feet deep of gold, even less than before. So it would appear consistent scaling in this world is gonna have more issues than Teen Vogue. That's a magazine with a lot of issues, just so you know. It was meant to be funny, but no, the cringy puns are just too real, you guys. So we have a little bit of a dilemma here. We have a lot of conflicting informations, and I wanna go big for today's theory. I mean, Disney XD paid me to do this episode, and as y'all have heard on this show time and time again, they never invite me to cool premieres or anything, so this is my chance to really impress them. Love me, Disney XD, love me! So to be super thorough and earn Disney's undying awe at the lengths that we go to on this show, I'm gonna power through every conceivable calculation I can to see the range of money that Scrooge McDuck might be hiding in this thing. Cue the clock. Method number 1, depth gauge. Using the depth gauge ruler, we can Photoshop that guy out of its pile, scale it appropriately, then use a few different angles to figure out the rest of the dimensions of the bin. Knowing that 20 marks on the gauge equals about 3 real feet, we get a money pile that's 10 feet deep, 20 feet wide, and 21 feet long. That's 4,200 cubic feet of coinage. Method number 2, the ladder method. Knowing Scrooge is 3 feet tall, we can calculate the entry to the vault as a circle with a diameter of about 8 feet. That allows us to measure out the walls, which become 20 and 32 feet respectively. Couple those numbers with the pile that's 30 feet of gold, and we get a stack of cash that's 19,200 cubic feet. Method number 3, blueprints. Since Scrooge is always diving into his money, we know the actual depth of the coin stack is about 9 floors and a basement level. And with the whole building being 12 floors above ground and 127 feet tall from ground level, each floor is going to be about 10 feet. 10 feet times 10 levels equals about a 100-foot tall mound of money. Looking deeper at the blueprints, we can see the width of the bin is just under 120 feet, and the length of the bin is 120 feet minus 30 feet for the office rooms, making it 90 feet wide. Discounting 2 feet on each side for the thickness of the walls, you get dimensions of 86 by 116 by 100, or 997,600 cubic feet. Method number 4, 3 cubic acres. Even though it's a completely made-up number, we can try to extrapolate meaning out of Scrooge saying that he has 3 cubic acres of money. An acre is 43,560 square feet, meaning that if we assume each side of this cube of money is 1 acre in area, the side length is going to be about 208.7 feet. Cube it and you get a volume of 9,090,972 cubic feet. So at 3 cubic acres, Scrooge's money bin would have contained 27,272,960 cubic feet in size. This number will be really fun when we do the final totals. Shiver my shekels, that is a ton of gold. Do you love me yet, Disney? Well, don't answer just yet, because this gamer truly does have a guide to everything. That's another show on Disney XD, by the way. And true to that title, we're going even deeper down this rabbit hole, because what we've just calculated is the volume of space in the vault across all the different scales we have. But that would imply a solid block of money down there, and that's not precise enough. This is a bunch of coins, randomly stacked coins. And as myself witnessed when hopping into the DuckTales vault for myself, there's a lot of air between those coins. So in my attempt to really impress you, Disney, I went and read a bunch of papers with really boring sounding names until I found the one. From Princeton, a paper with, I gotta admit, my favorite title of all time, Some Observations on the Random Packing of Hard Ellipsoids. Watch out, George R.R., this is some page-turning stuff. In this paper, we learn, or more accurately, I learn and tell you to spare you the pain of having to read this thing, that the packing efficiency of coins in a random pile is about 57%, meaning that almost half that giant money pile is gonna be nothing but air. That leaves our gold volume totals at, just flash it up on screen, no one needs to hear me list off all this stuff until we get to the final numbers. But you know what? We are still not done. This is the volume of the pile calculated in cubic feet. To find the value of this pile of gold, we need to know the weight of all of it, since gold prices are usually listed per unit of weight. So gold is really dense, thereby making it really heavy at 1,206 pounds for a cubic foot. So I went ahead and calculated out the weights in pounds for all 4 of our methods, which you see listed out on screen right now. point, we should totally be done, right? Multiply by the price of gold, wrap this episode up, earn Disney's love and respect for my super nerddom forever. Booyah, I'm walking the red carpet at the next Marvel movie premiere because Disney XD is so grateful at how I was able to solve their Scrooge McDuck problem. Except here's the catch. These are avoirdupois pounds, the very long and very French name Americans use every day when we talk about how heavy something is. They're the pounds that plague old Fat Pat every time he steps on a scale. It's the system where 16 ounces equals a pound. But silver, gold, platinum, and other precious metals that have lent their names to Pokemon installments are valued based on the Troy weight system. It's completely different. When comparing the two systems, a Troy ounce is heavier than an avoirdupois ounce, about 10% more. But here's where all these science and mathematicians who created these systems go overboard dumb. While a Troy ounce is heavier than an avoirdupois ounce, one Troy pound weighs less than one avoirdupois pound, because one Troy pound is defined as having 12 ounces, not the usual 16 in the other system. I'm just done. Nothing about this show is ever easy! Hear that sound? It is me repeatedly banging my head against the desk. So, to put all of this insanity to bed, I converted all 4 of our numbers to avoirdupois ounces, then to Troy ounces. It's worth noting that, according to method 3, if the vault's blueprints are to be believed, Scrooge's vault would contain twice the amount of gold that exists in the entire world. And that cubic acre number? Yeah, that's 55,000 times the amount of gold on planet Earth. No wonder Scrooge has to go to the moon in the video games and in the opening credit sequence of the original series. And lastly, with the price of gold currently at $1,243.30 per Troy ounce, I was finally able to calculate how much gold Scrooge has. Cue the drum roll. Guys, are you kidding me? Let's step it up. We're trying to impress Disney XD here. Fine, that'll do. Now, if we went with method 1, the most conservative route where he only has 10 feet of gold per our depth gauge calculations, the money bin would be filled with $52,348,493,767.50. That is the lowest possible estimate of Scrooge's wealth, and would still put him as the 5th richest person on planet Earth, just behind the creator of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg. Method 2, the ladder method, where we saw Scrooge's wealth teleported away, well, that was a good payday for the Beagle Boys, as they would have wound up with the greatest heist in history, walking away with over $239 billion, allowing Scrooge McDuck to surge past the richest person in the world, Bill Gates, and his measly $86 billion. But from here on out, the numbers get crazy. Method 3. Based on the dimensions of the comics blueprints of the bin, Scrooge would no longer be a billionaire. He'd be in the trillions at $12,434,552,490.10 if you include his number 1 dime. That puts him not only past the richest people in the world, but also the richest companies in the world. Don't get jelly, Disney. You created him. And lastly, method number 4. If he truly had 3 cubic acres of gold, a preposterous statement, it yields the equally preposterous grand total of $333,633,863,527.10. Get this, that's more money than there is in the entire world. If you added together all the banknotes, coins, and money deposited in savings or checking accounts across the planet Earth, the total is around $80.9 trillion. Scrooge has 4 times that amount. And remember, this is all just his gold coins. That's not including any jewels, gems, paper money, and real estate he owns outside of that bin. And here's the craziest thing. The new reboot nailed it. I was was a bit skeptical when the trailer said,
I run a multi-trillion-dollar business.
but there you go, they were right on the whole time. So there you have it, once and for all, the final answer. Scrooge McDuck, trillionaire, the hands-down richest fictional character ever. Not bad for a duck who started as a shoe shine. And with this reboot coming to Disney XD, starting with a big launch event Saturday, August 12th, you can and should watch along with me as Scrooge's wealth only continues to get bigger. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut.